نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Today's respected brothers, friends all across the world, I'd like to throw some light on a very important topic, which is the oncoming and expected World War III. And when I say that, I want people not to panic. I want people not to worry so much about, how it's going to happen, when it's going to happen, etc. Because no one knows the exact time of this. But since the political dynamics are developing and the economical changes are taking place all across the globe, this is going to be an inevitable situation in the near future. And I'm going to throw some light on what the current political states are, and in regards to what the generals of the military from all across the region and from Europe and other parts of the world are talking about. When I do this, I would like to declare that I have no insider knowledge of these intelligences. I have no insider knowledge of what the militaries are doing. It's purely based on the hadith, which is the saying of our beloved Prophet, peace be upon him. It is completely based on the Quran, which is a book of Nur, the light, which brings people towards the light. And there is a lot of information in Quran if you just know the reason, the way to explore it, and you have the hikmah and the wisdom which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives people, his chosen ones. So this is truly from Quran and Hadith, and also with the history and the current dynamics of the political, economical changing and developments in the world. Now, it is a very important topic, WW3, World War III. Now, we need to remember the time you're sitting in. It's the most difficult times in the 21st century. And as we move into the middle of this era, remember that currently the dynamics and the stability of the world is changing. I have recorded the video, which was recorded, I think it was a year and a half ago, more than a year ago, in which I said that, and also I've written, the words and the quotations, the quotes in which I've said that, the world is changing. Before the Ukraine war happened, and when the Ukraine war happened, I said clearly on Facebook that, the world is not going to be left alone, and this will be developing in other parts of the world. And then when the Palestine-Israel conflict took place, that gave a lot of backing to my evidence and what I had claimed. So, when I'm saying something, even though it's not 100% true, doesn't have to be, but it carries a lot of weight. So I want people to listen to this carefully. And not in this video, we're not going to talk about how to refrain or stay away or protect yourself from the World War III. We'll just talk about whether or not the World War III is going to happen very soon. So first of all, talking about Russia. As you know, what Russia is doing currently, Russia has been attacked by all the Western forces. I'm not going to name them. It also includes the NATO alliance, which is attacking directly Russia. And it is against the Russians' interests to be attacked, because Russia won't be left with anything. So they have to, whether with a hook or crook, they have to protect themselves. So we need to remember here, it's not about good or bad. It's about it's about the, the battle of the power, and whoever will be able to actually gain this power. In the light of the hadith, Sahih hadith, in which the Prophet ﷺ said, I believe it's a Sahih hadith, and if it's not, then correct me, in which the Prophet ﷺ said that, river Euphrates will, unveil a mountain of gold. And whoever sees that mountain of gold, 99 out of 100 armies will be destroyed in that battle. So the Prophet ﷺ has told the believers and the Muslims to stay away from that fight over the gold. And now we can take that context of the goal of oil or the power struggle. And River Euphrates, as you know, it's been drying, and it's literally dried out, not completely, quite a lot. And if you see those areas, maybe, there's something that's going to happen around River Euphrates, and maybe the battle can take place. But generally, it is it's a spiritual guidance that's been given, as some of the scholars also say today. So very few, which say that it's not a literal meaning of the saying, it is the in-depth meaning of the saying, which could mean, and which can mean, that, people will be fighting after gold or after the power struggle in this region. If you know that Russia, with the Crimea situation, they have now waged war against Ukraine. It's going into the second year and further. Now, people believe that Russia will have not enough weapons to be able to carry out the strikes, etc., and protect themselves, defend themselves. Russia will be now moving, and this is my statement, write it down very carefully. Russia will now be moving into Europe. Now, how they move, there are two ways to move into Europe. Number one, via Poland and Romania side, and move gradually all the way up to UK. But remember, when Russia attacks these Poland and Romanian country and those sides, Finland side, they would be also attacking Britain, as they carry out the strikes on these things. So there'd be a guerrilla warfare or maybe intelligence battles between UK and Russia. At the same time, Russia will be fighting on two different ends. The second end will be that they have already, by the looks of it, and I think this should be the news which NATO will know, and the US militaries will know, and the British militaries will know, and the Pakistani military will know that Russia is already supporting, Houthis. They're already supporting the Middle Eastern, groups, the small groups to the large groups, and they are going to be, encouraging them to be taking on the fight with Israel. So now you know that America is supporting Israel on one side. Israel being backed up by America and the West and the NATO alliance. The other side, NATO is attacking Russia on the front of Ukraine. So there are two different wars, and the main party to this war is the West and Russia. China is also backing up Russia, with Pakistan's military is backing up Russia. Of course, they might not like me. I've got no information. But this is what the situation is for the Pakistani people to also understand what they are going into, the Indian people to understand what they're going into. India at the moment we're not going to touch upon, because that's a second chapter. Next time we're going to discuss about this. I see that the World War III will develop in this way. Now listen carefully. The World War III will start from Russia into Europe, Russia into Middle East, Middle Eastern groups into Middle East, Israel into Middle East, America into Middle East. These two sides will start having the war and the devastation, which will be one side in the Middle East, the other side in the Central East Asia or Russian side into Europe. Now that takes on one side. When these wars will start, I have a prediction to make. It's not a prophecy, just a prediction, because I don't have the criteria to be telling anything beyond this. I am just a normal human who has just studied very little, so I can be wrong. Now, when I say this, it's based on my own research, based on what the situations are looking like, just purely based on that, nothing else. I see that very soon that the Pakistan-India war will take place. This will be the one of the biggest wars, which according to the history of Islam, it has been recorded as Ghazwa al-Hind, the holy battle of Hind, the subcontinent of this area. Now there are huge chances of this taking place, and the attack can take place from the Indian side, or it could take place from the Pakistani side. Now I don't know, I have no information or no prediction on that. When this gets developed, when India is fighting with Pakistan, the militaries will be destroyed on both sides with heavy losses. We'll have Russia and NATO with heavy losses facing. On the other side, Middle East and Israel will be facing both, all of them, whether it be Muslim, Jews, Christian. It doesn't look at anybody. The whole humanity will be struggling and suffering. When this war starts, it will only stop. It will only stop once both sides of the parties have been badly damaged and the rest of the world and the people cannot anymore fight any longer. It is scary as it sounds, but this is, as I said, based on my studies. And if I have to give you the time scale, the next year and a half to 2 years are looking really, really difficult for the whole of the world. Inflation is rising because economies are still working. But as soon as these wars starts, forget about inflation. You're going to have bigger challenges in your life. You're not going to have a place to live. You're going to be facing, battlefield ground, or the battleground and the devastations of that. You'll be facing misery and hardship of able to eat and to drink, and the polluted, air and the water by these missiles, etc. And also maybe, I can't predict whether the nuclear warfare will take place. There will be bits and patches, but I don't see any big nuclear warfare taking place. There'll be only 1 or 2 strikes wherever is needed, because the world cannot, they cannot, everyone understand how scary it is. Mainly it's going to be on the ground, and the air. And of course the water as well, but not nukes, very rare nukes. So this is all I know so far in regards to the way the world is developing, the way Russia is responding. It might not happen because things can change, but as we know that the Britain military has made a statement very recently in the last week, in which the general has said that the next 20 years could be a war between Russia. Of course, I'm not gonna put my words into the mouth of the general, Of course, he's respected in that sense. He knows, and he knows how much to share. So for that reason, I can't share any further, because this will create chaos, and this will also create how to say, like, worry and panic in the people. Now, the advice I will give you based on this Russian, Western, and Asian warfare, the battle, the battles that will be taking place very soon. I say in the next 2 years. Again, I can be wrong. If this starts, then what do you need to do? You need to stay patient. You need to support humanity. You need to save as many lives as you can, because that's the only thing you can do, starting off with yourself. And also, you need to be, this is a very big statement I'm going to give, and I think that goes to a lot of Muslims as well. My, request to all the Muslims will be to, if they can't fight and they know that both sides are not going to be on the right, because we only fight for the sake of Allah. We do not ever fight. It's only to defend ourselves. So in that case, if you believe that this is just a power struggle, I would tell all the believers, all the Muslims, to refrain from this fight and to move away from the battleground, right? Not to participate in this. And instead, if you belong to Africa, Asia, or other countries, you could just go back to your own countries. That'll be the safest option. Because one thing you can't do, you can't pick and choose the countries. And the country you live in, you have allegiance to this country, Britain. When you're living allegiance to up to a standard that, you will not do anything against the country. So for that very reason, if you're not going to be supporting the country, at least you do not go against the country, right? And you be on the neutral grounds. But of course, when you see humans suffering, you try to save them and protect them as much as possible. I pray to Allah that this thing doesn't happen, but there are certain things that will happen, and even God has had a plan. He's got his plan, and this will only happen because this is the biggest fight between the Dajjal, the devil, evil, and the goodness. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with the good, not with the evil. And I request all the Christians, Jews, Muslims, atheists, agnostics of all around the world to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because the time is coming when it'll be really difficult. It'll be nearly impossible to differentiate who is the true creator Lord and who is the Dajjal, the Antichrist. So save from the Antichrist, because when he comes out, he will act like he's got powers and he wants to call himself a magician or the God, so-called. God forbid. He will not be. So recognize your creator before it's too late. And the biggest weapon of Dajjal is that he creates people to be atheists and non-believers. Why? Because then you don't have a faith. You don't have belief in your creator, your Lord. So I will conclude on this part, and I would tell everybody to stay nice and humble. But this prediction had to be given to the people, just for the sake of how the world is changing and how the world will be moving on. All right, so don't quote me on this, because it might not be the case, but this is how the current situation politically and economically is looking like, because it is a game of these countries to prevail over the other, to take over the other nations. And this might become messy. So just protect yourself, look after yourself. And as a believer and as a good human being, we should stay humble and positive, and always expect for the positivity, not the negativity, but be prepared. The reason for this talk is to give you the opportunity to think, what will you do? And I would suggest that you have a backup plan on the mountains, on the top, as I said in my last video, where you can just take shelter in case something big happened. That will give you some chances of protection and survival. So on this note, I wish you guys best of luck, and with the Islamic greeting, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, wa akhru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alamin.